welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester, and thank you for joining us for episode 119. Tonight, we'll give you our match and player analysis of Wolves' 1-0 defeat to Arsenal. We'll go through this first team squad. Shall we loan, sell, bench, or start? Take some of your questions and look ahead to Saturday's tea time game against Aston Villa. To guide me through the sanity and insanity that is the Wolves Report, I have our midfield general in the form of Nocky. Tyler's out scouting for next season because he's not sure if we're going to be in the Championship, but I'm sure he will be back. Nocky, thank you for joining us on this Tuesday evening. I forgot what day it was then. Another defeat for Wolves, another reality check. But for me, the most painful thing was I expected that game really to be a comfortable 2-3, 4-0 Arsenal. But the fact that Wolves had an opportunity is what hurt the most. So I'd love to get your take on Wolves 0, Arsenal 1.
Yeah, it's the hope that kills you, isn't it? I mean, last week I think I said I thought we'd lose 4-0 because of the quality they've got. And you find out Odegaard's not playing, and obviously Saka's not playing, and you've got a little bit of hope, and they go down to 10 men. And again, you're thinking there's something in it for us, but we just didn't lay a glove on them. We didn't put them under any pressure. We didn't play like a team who had 11 men. We seemed to sit back and let them dominate and dictate play. And an Arsenal team with 10 men is still a very good team, obviously. But when in the position we're in, it was a real opportunity to go and get yourself 3 massive points and keep you out the relegation zone. So to play the way we did with such a reserved system, I thought there might be a few positive changes to make us a little bit more attacking in the second half. But we just kind of seemed to stick with what we were doing, and it wasn't working. Changes came a little bit too late in the day, and we gave away a really, really sloppy goal to lose the match. And moment of madness from João Gomes puts you under pressure. So it was a really frustrating day, and I think it should have sent alarm bells ringing across the board really with what we've got in this squad and what we need to do, because it was such a lackluster, lack of fight and lack of, I don't want to say effort, but a lack of real quality on the pitch, and we just couldn't compete with a 10-man Arsenal side. So really worrying, really disappointing. And it felt like quite a pivotal weekend, I think, especially with Leicester going and getting a result at Spurs. So a few days left in the window, there needs to be some action.
Absolutely. Just going back to the point I made before, Nocky, I really didn't see anything. I mean, we've had such a tough run of fixtures, but you've got to play everyone twice. It just so happens that all our really hard games are really sort of bulked together. When you're playing 4 of the top 6 in the last 4, it was always going to be difficult. But it's the kick in the teeth, like you said. It is the hope that kills you. But I genuinely believe going into that second half, Wolves had a chance, and they should have. So, but there's 2 reasons. Obviously, João Gomes got sent off. So we'll talk about that first. The thing with João Gomes, we all know what type of player he is. He's the kind of player that you can't ask him to play with his muzzle on, because that's who he is. He loves a tackle. He loves a challenge. He's tenacious. That's what he does. However, he should know better on a yellow card. But the manager knows what kind of player he is. So is it down to the manager at half-time to make the switch? Because everyone was talking about it. You know how quickly games get levelled up in the Premier League with red cards. Or does João Gomes have to manage himself? Or there is an equal level of responsibility on either side?
I don't think we've got the squad to take him off. That game's there to be won at that point, isn't it? And you want your best players on the pitch to go and win the game, and you're relying on Gomez not doing something stupid, which he did. I mean, if you do take him off because you want to keep the 11 men on the pitch, who do you bring on? Do you bring Bellegarde on? Do you bring Doyle on? I mean, what do you do? Whatever decision you make, you're going to weaken your team. So I've no issue with him keeping him on the pitch. That responsibility and that damage is a result of João Gomez's actions. He didn't need to do that tackle. It was in an area of the pitch where there's no danger. He's in their penalty area. There was no need to do that at all. And that sits with Gomez, not the manager. If we had a squad that we want, if we had the squad that we need to compete at this level, then yeah, absolutely, you take him off and you replace him with someone of equal measure, really, or close to it. We haven't got the ability to do that, so we don't think he had a great deal of choice but to leave him on. So yeah, for me, that's. I think he's just talking about me there, but for me, that just sits with it sits purely with João Gomes. He's a professional footballer. He should know better. And the manager spoke to him at half time as well and prepped him for that, because we knew what Arsenal would do. You know, every time anyone got anywhere near an Arsenal player in the second half, they were throwing themselves to the floor and trying to get bookings, and you know it's going to happen. So why put yourself in that situation? You know, he needs to control himself. And I know he plays on the edge, but you're still a professional footballer. You need to use your head, and he didn't, and he let us down badly.
Yeah, he did let us down. I just think you do make a really good point, and it's when you could do with the Mario coming on, because
Absolutely, yeah.
that's you could do with that kind of player coming on and saying, well, I don't want to risk it because you've lost your get out of jail free card, and that's it. And you just knew as soon as he put a tackle in. I mean, granted, he didn't really give the ref much to think about because it was a stinking tackle. However, you know the way he plays, and I just think you've got to be smarter. Would you roll the dice with Bellegarde? We could be sitting here now criticising for taking him off if we'd lost the game.
Exactly.
But equally, I think you have to be smarter. But what was more concerning, Nocky, is the spell between the start of the second half and the red card. There was a real lack of belief. Now, whether that's confidence, but at the end of the first half, we didn't want the end of the first half to come because Wolves looked the better side. They looked more like the team for me that were going to score after the red card. So it was the general approach of the second half when it was almost like draw them on because they know Arsenal have to win this game to stay in the title race and try and pick them off. But there was no getting in behind. There was no nothing. But Arsenal are a very, very good side, but not to really lay a glove on a side with any Premier League side with 10 men, regardless if they're. I mean, we were 2-0 down to Man City. They had 10 men. We won 3-2. Granted that side and this side are miles apart, but it's the frustration that there was an opportunity. I almost feel like I'd have felt better if we'd have lost 3 or 4-0 and they outclassed us, and that was that. But the fact the door was open and we didn't even knock on it, never mind walk through, and that's the main frustration from me. Greg makes a point here as well regarding the game. We did nothing at all in that spell, Ryan. 3 subs in 87 minutes. Yeah, I agree, Greg. But I think as soon as the red card in, I felt like Wolves would lose that game. And I guess if you feel like it, the players might feel like it as well. But it was one sloppy error. It's not like they were peppering us. Well, it's not like there was They were better, but it's not like we were being completely pumped. And they took that one sort of real chance and capitalised. So
we could have been a couple of goals down before that, couldn't we? I mean, Kai Havertz has had a hat-trick of simple chances and he's missed all 3 of them. So I think chances-wise, it's a half chance from Sarabia that maybe he should have scored, but it's a difficult opportunity when it's coming over your shoulder like that. And then we had a chance from.
I think the minimum you have to hit the target.
Yeah, I think Cunha should have scored as well from the corner. So we had a couple of half chances, but theirs were real solid, big opportunities, and they didn't take them. So on another day, we could have been a couple of goals behind before we even get that red card. It's frustrating because when you look, and I know we'll do the team, but when you look across the team, there wasn't too many really bad performances. And I think there were some really good performances in there. I thought Abadu was absolutely fantastic. So there was collectively they weren't too bad, but it's individual errors. I think Sarabia loses the player for the goal. He doesn't track his runner, and we end up a goal down. And it's just that's where we are at the moment. When we do switch off for a split second, we get punished. I mean, Calafiori's not a regular goal scorer for Arsenal, but we just don't track the run and we give him a free opportunity.
If he's allowed a free half volley or whatever it was, then he's a Premier League footballer. He's an international footballer. He's going to score. And the problem is when you've got Sarabia in the side. Now, I don't think Sarabia lacks in effort. He lacks in strength and mobility. So and that's the gamble. And if Sarabia is in the team, I don't know how in a million years he's managed to start away at Chelsea and at home to Arsenal, 2 of the most physically strong, fast, athletic, aggressive sides in the Premier League, 2 sides that will probably finish top 4 at the end of the season. And we've played one of our weakest, slowest players. He can't help that he's weak or slow. He's technically very gifted. But in games like that, chances are few and far between. And for me, you need mobility. And it's a footballing crime, Nocky, that Rodrigo Gomez has not been in the starting 11. I don't know what that kid has done. Granted, he's probably not as smooth, but the energy he brings from minute 1 to minute 90, the constant zip, the press, the ball in behind, the tracking, the tenacity, he's what you need against better opposition. Not Sarabia. For me, Sarabia is a player you play when the opponents are tucking in and you're trying to pick a pass. Not a game where the opponents will be better with you and have more of the ball, but what do we know? So I feel sorry for Rodrigo. I think he has to come in the next game, but we said that for the last few games and it's not happened. And I will come on to it later on, but we do have a conundrum. It looks like Strand Larsen's hamstring. I'm pretty sure he's not going to be available. And then we have the issue with Hwang Hee-chan, and we've obviously talked a lot on this show. I mean, he scored the second goal against Man United. He scored a nice finish away at Spurs, but otherwise, I don't really know what he's done or what he offers. And Nocky, that first touch on Saturday, with that touch and you ran it out of play, it's just inexcusable. Granted, he's low on confidence and he's not going to get better with us being frustrated with him, and we will support him. But you need to change something different, because this is a guy so out of form, and you've got a local derby on Saturday. You can't be taking that risk. But anyway, I digress. Going on to we'll go ahead to that. But let's talk about we know about the goal, and we know Sarabia not tracking, and we know the finish. Nocky, let's go through the team. There's a few things I want to talk about tonight. So first of all, your take on Jose Sarr.
I don't think he did a lot wrong. I think the chances that they had weren't a result of anything that Sarr did. He made a really good save from Havertz from a header, and yeah, he probably should make that save, but he's got to get himself in the position to make it. I thought his distribution was relatively good. He had a couple of moments which you sort of expect from him, but I don't think from set pieces where they're really strong, we look particularly vulnerable. He was quite commanding, so he had a decent game for me.
Yeah, didn't really do a lot wrong. I think he did what he had to do. His distribution was all right. He looked reasonably confident. But I guess if on your left-hand side now you've got a defender, sort of defensive quality of Agbadou, it is going to boost the goalkeeper behind you, who has been a bit nervous with some of the defenders. But going on to the back three, one by one, probably start with the pick of the bunch, Nocky. Agbadou, a couple of sloppy passes, which he seems to do at the start of the game. But as the game went on, his passing range was getting longer, it was getting crisper, he was driving the ball, and he was dominating in the challenge. For me, already, this looks like a very good piece of business for Wolves.
I like the look of him. I'll be honest, I was a little bit nervous. I was at Bristol and his distribution was poor and he just didn't seem to go up with the speed of the game. But I thought he was excellent. I like him without the ball. I think when he's bearing down and he's blocking and he's tackling and he's reading the game and he's intercepting passes, he looks really, really strong in that area. And as you rightly say, he shanked a few out of play, but I think that's just something we're going to have to put up with. But he did grow into the game and he felt quite dominant in that area. He felt like he had a little bit of, I don't know, he had a bit of an aura about him. He was just really strong and solid, and some of the tackles he made were fantastic. I really like the look of him. I think if we get another centre half and then maybe switch him over to the right, play Totti on the left, and then you get a new centre half in midfield or in the middle of the three, or maybe even with, you could bring a Dawson back in, or you've got Bueno, because that lack of physicality and pace, you've got two lads around him who are quite strong and quite mobile, so maybe they could complement each other. But yeah, I'd agree with that. He was a lot like, it was a bit of a bolly performance. He was very, very solid. So yeah, it's early days, isn't it? But from what you've seen so far, it feels like a decent deal.
Yeah, really like the look of him. I do think, as you say then, I think we'll see the best of him when he's on his natural side, because I feel like if we are going to play from the back three and you've got three very strong athletic footballers, you kind of need them on the natural side, because I know he wants to cut inside every time, and that probably works when he's playing against the player who's left-footed. But when you're playing against the right-footed player, he might come unstuck. But that
he has played there though. He played there quite regularly.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think for his natural side, to see him on the other side of the pitch where he can play the ball to Semedo or play the ball forward to Geds or Rodrigo, or whoever's on that side of the pitch. It's just a natural flow instead of having to come inside. It's a small critique though, because for me, he was Wolves' standout player by a million miles. Santiago Bueno, again, I don't really know much that he did wrong. I can't really fault him. Nothing stands out. I think he was, I think you guys quite often say, when you don't notice defenders, I think they're doing okay. If you notice them, they're either doing really bad or really good. Agbadou was really good. I can't really say you particularly noticed Santiago Bueno much.
He reminds me a bit of Kilman when he first came through, that when he's playing with better players, he grows. He seems a bit taller in the game. He seems a little bit more confident. And having Agbadou next to him maybe brought out a little bit of a better performance. I think there's a player with Santi. My only criticism of him is the physical side of it, which in this division, you get bullied if you're not bullying the opposition. So I'd like to see him be a little bit more physical. But he was pretty mobile, which I've been a bit critical of him before. He had seems to have a little bit of pace about him, and he was reading the game very, very well. So I can't really knock him. The goal certainly wasn't his fault. So again, he wasn't at Agbadou's level, but I think it was a pretty solid centre back performance.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. And then on to Matt Doherty. Again, it's hard to be critical because I think he was okay. The problem with Matt Doherty is, as we saw a few weeks ago, when you put him against Hudson-Odoi, someone like that, there's nothing you can do because you just don't have the legs for it. I do think Wolves benefit aerially from Matt Doherty in the team, and we do seem to look a little bit more comfortable against the best side in the league for free kicks and corners, even though some of their deliveries weren't the best. But again, there was a good shake to it, and I think Matt Doherty played a part of that in terms of being aggressive. So,
yeah,
Matt Doherty, again, across the back three, Knockley probably 2 6s for Doherty and Santi, and maybe an 8 for Agbadou. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, Doherty gave us the best opportunity to win the game because he got fouled and they had a lad sent off. So he played his part. They didn't really test us in the way that I thought they would. They didn't try and come through us. They definitely missed Odegaard because you know that he can
open all kinds of doors, can't he?
Yeah. And Saka the other side would have been maybe it's a different story with those two in the team, but they didn't really impose themselves on us. They were looking for quick breaks and they were kind of limited to strikes from the edge of the area. They couldn't really break our line. So it was a good performance from the three at the back. And I thought Doherty, he did his job as well. It's probably out of the last 4 games we've had, that's probably the least amount of work any of them have had to do, I'd say.
Yeah, I thought the shape and the way the two in front protected them quite well. I thought, and that's what was frustrating again, because one goal, you're so close to a point you didn't think you were going to get. And I think even if at the end of that game we'd have come out with a point, there'd be a lot more optimism around now. I just think it's the disappointment that there was an opportunity that we didn't take that's hurt people. Moving on to the... Go on, Nocky.
I do think, though, on that, we've hurt ourselves because we haven't tried to win the game. And I know that you want to be careful to a degree because you've got a point and you want to hold the point, but there was a huge opportunity there to really get a bit of confidence and kick on and get yourself 3 points. And the most worrying thing for me is that we didn't really impose ourselves on the game at all. I mean, that first 15 minutes of the second half, I don't think we got out our own penalty area. They were all over us and they were knocking the ball around. They were dominating possession. They were controlling the flow of the game. They had us at arm's length, and that really shouldn't happen. Whoever you're playing against, when you're an established Premier League side, if you're coming up against a team in your division, you shouldn't be performing like that. I just think there was an opportunity to maybe shake things around a little bit, try something a bit different, and just make those substitutes a bit earlier and try and impose yourself on the game. We didn't react till we were a goal down, and even then it took us a while to react to it. So, yes, we weren't overwhelmed, but there was a few red flags for me with that performance because I do think we should have been a lot more. We should have been braver. We should have been more ambitious, and we should have tried to win the football game. For me, we didn't do that.
Yeah, I do think there was a have what we hold. I mean, I think Rick just mentioned then a have what we hold sort of mentality for the second half. Let's not lose the game now. We've got 10 men, and if we can go and pinch it, great. But it felt like we were set up, and for a team that was missing Odegaard, a team that was missing Jesus, and a team that was missing Saka, and an Arsenal team that didn't look particularly great. Yeah, they were better than us, but they didn't look particularly great. That there was an opportunity. If we'd have tried to win it and we'd have lost and been open, would be slagging them now? Maybe, but at least we'd have found out. And I don't think we ever got to find out. I think if Wolves start that second half and they go not all out, because they will pick you off regardless of who's in that team. But if they sort of roll the dice and have a go for it, and we get the first goal, it's a different story then, because then we can pick them off for a goal up. So I think Wolves were punished not only for a bit of naivety from Joe Gomez, so disappointing the manager didn't change with Joe Gomez, but for the lack of bravery as well. And Arsenal rewarded for theirs, and quite often it's fortune that favours the brave, isn't it, Nocky? But anyway, moving on to the wing-backs in the form of Ryan Ait-Nouri and Nelson Semedo. I don't know what they did, good or bad, to be honest.
Yeah, it's probably the hardest team rating we've had, because I don't think anyone was terrible.
Oh, I'm gonna find one for you.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there is one, but I think they were quite reserved in what they did. They didn't advance as much as you'd like to see them do. They didn't try and get into attacking areas. Semedo had a really good run in the first half when he put one on for Sarabia.
Believed in his pace, didn't he? That was nice.
That was excellent play from him, and a fantastic ball as well. But it felt like we were just let's hold, let's not commit, let's not do too much, let's try and sit and be defensively strong. And you didn't see a lot from him in the attacking area, and which I was quite surprised about, because without Saka, they're vulnerable down that side, and I felt that we could have put them under pressure and tried to peg them back a little bit. Because if you do that, you naturally take some of the attacking sting out of Arsenal, because you know that they want to be attacking you. If you force those players back and give them something to think about in the wide areas, you give yourself a chance of kind of stopping the flow a little bit. And especially in the second half when we're under pressure, I wanted to see the wing backs pushing up a little bit more and just keeping them back, and they just didn't really do that. They kind of advanced to maybe to the halfway line, and then they were sort of dropping back and just sitting back in midfield, and it just seemed
very placid, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what they must have been told to do that, because Semedo lately has liked to get forward. We know that Ain't Nuri likes to get forward, so I was quite surprised that they took that approach. It felt, I won't say negative, because you've only conceded one goal, haven't you? But it just felt a little bit like a very, very reserved wing back performance.
Yeah, it just, again, this is the third time I've said it, just feels like such a big opportunity missed to the minimum of a point, and I come away disappointed that we didn't get a point, because play the game correctly, cut out the silly errors, or even be braver, you're probably coming away with more, but there we go. Probably 2 5.5 6s, didn't really do a lot. Yeah, probably 2 6s.
It's hard to be critical, because I don't think they did a great deal wrong. And I think they were following instructions from Pereira, because that's not their natural game, is it? I think in terms of what they were asked to do, they did it very well, so you can't really criticise them. But the lack of ambition, I do think that hurt us, really.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Moving on to the midfield pair of Andre and Joe Gomez. Andre probably in the last few games hasn't found the levels that when he came back into the side at the start of Vitor's reign, that you thought, well, we're going to see him now. In a couple of these recent games, it's kind of been 3-on. It was 3-on-2 at Chelsea, because Cole Palmer was in front of the midfield too. And again, Arsenal, they play with the 3. So quite a bit of the time then, despite them being fantastic athletes, they're 2v3 in a Premier League game is quite hard. And I think they've suffered a bit as that. But they did offer the defence quite a bit of protection. However, Wolves' probably player of the season so far had a bit of a brain fart moment, which I'm not going to be overcritical, because he's been brilliant for most of the time he plays for us. But he's got to do better than to go into those kind of challenges on a yellow card when you aren't going to win the ball.
Yeah, and you could see by his reaction, he knew exactly what he'd done. His performance was good, and I think he's been our best player this season. I think
I thought he was all right at Chelsea, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the games we've lost, you don't look at Joe Gomez and think he's not contributed, he's not been a part of it, and you can kind of label that at some of the other players. He's been consistent. For me, I don't think he's deserved to be on the losing side as often as he has, because he's definitely put the performances in. But that was disappointing, and no one's above criticism. As good as he's been, that cost us massively, because it was such an unnecessary tackle to make. He didn't need to do it. He didn't need to stamp down on the player. You're in their penalty area. They're not going to hurt you from that position. So if you lose the ball, you lose the ball. He needs to be more intelligent, and he does play on the edge, and he does play. He plays his style of football, and it's hard to take that out of a player. But that's no excuse for that tackle. It was absolutely ridiculous, and he knew. And I imagine he took quite a decent hiding when he got back in the dressing room. Andre, I thought, was Andre. He seems to be the same sort of level week in, week out. We know what his game is. He's very much about winning the ball and then giving it to the players and playmakers and getting himself back into positions. He tackles well. He's defensively sound, and he's a good shield for the back line. So I thought he was good. I'm a little bit concerned about those two together. I'm not sure it's working. I feel like we need a third in there, because I feel like they're similar in what they do, and they don't allow us to get up the pitch enough. But I thought his performance was good, and I thought until Gomez got himself sent off, and it was a red card as well. I mean, the first one at the time where I was sat, it looked like the ref had blew, and he was in the motion of kicking it. Seeing it back on Match of the Day, it looks very much to me like he could have stopped that motion. He didn't need to kick the ball. And then the second one, if you're going to give a red card for the first incident for the Arsenal player, you're pretty similar to it on that one, aren't you? So yeah, disappointing. Good performance by Andre. Good performance by Gomez, up to the point he lost his head.
Yeah, the problem with the Joe Gomez one is it more than likely paid a huge contribution to Wolves losing. But not only that, now he's missing against Villa, and that's obviously Villa are looking for different things from Wolves at the moment. To have a player of that caliber missing is enormous. I know we'll talk about it in a bit, but I don't really like the thought of Doyle and Andre together. I don't think there's enough. I think that they'll be treading all over each other trying to do the same job. But
Surely
we shall
it'd be
see.
Bellegarde, wouldn't it?
I would
know
hope
we'll
so
come
for
on
them
to
for Villa, and I'm sure people will comment on there. But yeah, just one point on what you said though, in terms of you're concerned about the pairing. Are we concerned about the pairing against the better sides when Wolves should probably go to a 5-3-2? Because against Leicester, against Man United, there wasn't any issues. It was fine, and we looked very good in those games with that pair. So is it something that we need to address, that we're playing teams who are technically superior and are higher at the table, that we probably switch to a 3-man midfield and have 2 up front, have 2 sitting and 1 in front maybe?
I think so, yeah. I mean, you look at the goals we conceded over the last 4 games. I mean, you can't really use Arsenal as a fair barometer because they're down to 10 men. You don't know how that would have finished at 11 each. But I feel like when we're playing against the better sides and we're playing with a 2, the wing backs don't advance. And this is only really under Pereira. The wing backs don't really advance the way they used to. Cunha comes a lot deeper, and we kind of restrict ourselves, and we're not giving ourselves anything to hit. There's no out ball. When we do knock it up to Strand Larsen, he's not physically dominant enough to hold that ball up. So I feel like we're sacrificing something. I'd like to see a third in there so that we can just have a little bit more control in midfield, allow the wing backs to bomb past us and give us a little bit more room to play, or the fullbacks, whichever way we're going to do it, and just stretch the play a little bit. I think we're too reliant on winning the ball in midfield and trying to get it forward to Strand Larsen. We're not very dynamic in that area when we're playing the better teams. And against Leicester, it works because when we do take the ball and we take the ball off them, you've got your wing backs bombing on. You've got
it worked away at Spurs,
and it works. Yeah,
Wolves were the better side second half at Spurs. It was a good result against Man United, good performance. It was good against Leicester.
But you can't lose the midfield battle in the Premier League. You lose the midfield battle in the Premier League, you lose the game. And when you're up against the better sides, they will control the midfield area and they'll take the game away from you very quickly. And that's all Arsenal did really in that second half. They controlled midfield. We couldn't get a kick in midfield, so the ball kept coming back at us. If we'd have had a 3 in that midfield area, I think we could maybe dominate the ball, control possession a bit more, and give ourselves an opportunity to play through them and maybe, get yourselves into those attacking areas. We didn't really do that. And we got to the point where we were just lumping it forward, try and get rid of the ball. We've got no one up front who could hold it up, especially when Strand Larsen went off, and it just keeps coming back, doesn't it? So maybe a little bit more dynamic in how we play in midfield would benefit us. Against the weaker teams, yes, you can get away with the 2. When you've got a little bit more quality against you, I just want to see another player in there just to give you that bit of stability.
Yeah, absolutely nailed it. Moving on to the forwards, Pablo Sarabia, Noki. I mean, I'll start on Pablo. I mean, we talked about him earlier on, so I don't need to go on too much. Clearly a great technician, very gifted, clean striker, the ball creator, but quite slow, quite not as physical as you need to be. Premier League fullbacks are all mainly tanks. They're strong, they're athletic, and he just gets dominated. He doesn't beat a man. And to have him in the team and then drifting wide against Chelsea and Arsenal, it's like playing with 10 men. I don't particularly blame him for that because you can't make yourself quicker or stronger when you're 31, 32. That's just the way it is. So I think that one's on the manager. And Rodrigo Gomez must be looking in the mirror thinking, well, what have I got to do? Because I've probably been the most informed player when I've been on the pitch. So, yeah, tough one for me. It's a 3 or 4 out of 10. I thought it was really poor. Your take on Cunha, a few moments, but split the fans in terms of his application.
Yeah, just on Sarabia, I think if you're going to play him, it needs to be in a 4-2-3-1. You need to play him in a 10 because he's not a wide player. He hasn't got the pace to get in behind. He's not he's a leisure player. He's a player that you have when you're comfortable in a game. If you're 2 or 3 goals up, he'll keep possession, he'll keep the ball. But when you're chasing a game or when you're up against a team of that quality, he's never going to affect it. In terms of Cunha, probably had our best opportunity and he put it wide. He's in a difficult situation because unless he's scoring in a game now, because of recent events, he's going to take a lot of stick. I don't think he was terrible. I don't think he affected the game the way we wanted him to. But he had our best moment in the game. He had a decent effort that Raya should save and does save, and then from the resulting corner, he puts one wide. So he was okay. Certainly not one of his strongest performances. Probably our most attacking threat, I'd say, most dangerous player.
Yeah, I think with the way Cunha plays, he's very much he's an emotional player, isn't he?
Yeah.
When he doesn't like something, his arms are in the air and he's complaining. But when you've had like people talking about you leaving and you're not being committed, maybe you see it a bit worse than it is. I don't know. Would I like him to get his head down a bit more? Yeah. Is he key to Wolves' survival? I think he is. I mean, if someone comes on offer 75, 80 million, Cunha will leave this window. So that's why I'm not confident. But equally, if that doesn't look like it's going to happen with a couple of days to go, then I'd imagine he'll sign a new deal, because you're offering more money, a guarantee of an escape clause next season. So it makes no sense. So Wolves are protecting the value of their asset, and he's getting more money as well. So we shall see. I don't know. 6.5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 is all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tricky with Cunha, isn't it? Because the way you see Cunha is a guy who picks the ball up, drives through midfield, and makes things happen. We went to Forest away last season, and he barely touched the ball, but he got himself 2 goals. So he's not always a player that's going to be massively influencing a game. He's the opportunity for you to have that little bit of quality that probably gets you past some of the. He probably stands us above 3 of the teams in this division, I'd say, is having a player of that quality in your team. But you're not always going to get the performance where he's driving and he's taking people on. And I think now, whenever he's not an 8 out of 10, he's going to get criticism because of what's happened over the last few weeks. And it's not always fair, I don't think, because I do think I think he worked. I do think he worked last week, and I think he cared, and he looked like a player who wanted to score. But because of recent events, he's going to take pelters if he's not putting the ball in the net, and he's maybe brought that on himself slightly.
Yeah, difficult one. But for the record, I hope he stays. I'm still
absolutely. Yeah,
I'm not sure if one of the big sides sells someone or something happens. I mean, I hope he does stay, because I think he stays. A fit and focused Cunha keeps Wolverhampton Wanderers in the Premier League, despite
I think if Arsenal are in the title race and they still think they're in the title race, I could see him moving for him. I think if they feel that it's over, they'll probably wait till the summer.
Yeah, we shall see. Let's talk about Strand Larsen. Now, I do have some sympathy for Strand. I know you guys have talked about it, and his form has dipped recently. But speaking to a few people that have sent me some numbers on him, I mean, he's played a lot of minutes in almost every game. He's pressing, he's running. He's not a guy that's standing there doing nothing. The guy's chasing down fullbacks, centre-backs, goalkeepers. And the last few games, he's looked like he's needed a rest. So when he's come into that game, he's tired, he's stretched a ball, he's pulled his hamstring. If players are in the red zone, I'm not saying he was. He looked like he was in the red zone from how quiet it was in terms of his movement compared to recent times. It looked like everything was an effort for him. And now he looks like he's pulled his hamstring. I know people are asking the question. I think it takes a few days to settle down before they can do the scan and tear in terms of it's a grade 1, 2 or 3. So I don't know. He didn't look overly bad, like he'd gone down. It was a gradual thing. I think he knew. He tried to carry on and then stopped. A big player for us, though. But as always, Nocky, Wolves don't have a replacement 9, but we've been saying that since we signed Raul.
It's like Groundhog Day, isn't it? It's exactly the same as last season, and we ended up with a Nathan Fraser who probably hasn't recovered from that spell because of the way it went for him. And the fact that we've put ourselves back in this position again, it's absolute neglect that we've only got one number 9. And I know some people will probably say that Hwang's your backup number 9, but he's not. He's a very last resort for me at the moment. And the fact that we've put ourselves in this position again, it's just ridiculous. And if you're going to flog a player, which is what we've done to him, you're risking injury, and you're going to cause yourself problems. And he started strongly at the start of the season. He was scoring some goals for us, but he's playing every minute he's available, isn't he? He doesn't really come off unless the game's safe, which doesn't really happen very often, or whether he gets injured. So we've absolutely brought this on ourselves. And I'm not going to be critical of his performance up to the point where he got taken off, because he's up against one of the best centre-half pairing, if not the best centre-half pairing in the division. So I didn't expect him to get a great deal of change out of him, and he didn't. But he ran, he worked, he put his shift in. He didn't hide, but he's on a hide into nothing against those two. And we've it's self-inflicted. So much of this season is self-inflicted, and this one's a massive, massive error on our part.
Yeah, and his replacement, I know you talk about the subs, but he played quite a bit of the game. Hwang, again, this show's been critical of Hwang, but equally, we praised him for scoring the second goal against Man United. We praised him for his fantastic free kick at Spurs. Other than those 2 moments, I generally don't know any moments of quality is provided for us at all. He's a strong boy. He's mobile. He's fit. But I can't honestly say what he contributes, because if Wang doesn't score, I don't know what you're offering me, because I don't feel like you're aggressive enough when you're tackling him for challenges. I don't see someone that's throwing their body on the line. I don't even see someone that's getting in goal scoring positions. I don't know what he does. I know if you have to play him, it has to be as a 9. But if he's a 9, you have to feed him. You have to give him the ball quickly around the penalty spot, and he'll probably get you a goal. But if you don't put him in those positions, it's the same as Sarabia. If he's not getting in the good positions, it's like playing. For a lot of that game, it felt like we had 9 Ben. Hwang's not making the ball stick. Sarabia's not doing anything with the ball. And so 2 of your 3 forwards aren't holding the ball or contributing. No wonder the ball kept coming back in the second half.
I'm not sure he's disciplined enough to be a 9. He seems to, when he's in that position, he'll go wandering off and he'll end up pulling all over the place. And he spends more time throwing himself to the floor than he does anything else. I think he's always split opinion, hasn't he? He's always been, even when he was scoring goals last season, he ended up on double figures. He's always split opinion because he kind of, as you said quite rightly, he doesn't contribute if he's not scoring. So it's what you do with him. And I can't see anybody else coming in but him, if I'm being honest. I think that's the one he's going to lean on, which is pretty terrifying when you look at his recent form. And he did score a couple of good goals for us, but there's nothing else. There's nothing he contributes. He's not intelligent enough to play other people in. He just hasn't got that. He hasn't got a footballer's brain. He's got a bit of an instinct about him. He's got a finisher's instinct, but he can't get himself into those intelligent positions. And it goes back to the summer, doesn't it? The fact that we were offered, 25 million for him?
21 million euros.
And we turned it down. It's scandalous, really.
Yeah, I really don't understand that, but there we go. A few people have mentioned it, so we are going to talk about it because we have got a sense of humour as well. A few people have mentioned Bellegarde. Rich mentions Bellegarde here. Let's just get that comment so I can see it on the screen. Can we talk about Bellegarde attempting to run, fouling himself, and nearly pulling a hamstring? If he's still in the squad in February, the window has been a failure. Well, I'm sorry, Rich,
the game, that was.
I think Bellegarde. I mean, people around me were laughing, and you have to laugh sometimes. I think Bellegarde will be starting on Saturday because I don't think you can start Tommy Doyle and Andre together. But it was a comedy moment. I have stuck up for Bellegarde a lot on here, and I hope my praise and blind faith comes good on Saturday against the game. I badly don't want to lose, not win. I badly don't want to lose, but we shall see. Bellegarde certainly hasn't played to his potential. I think he was really good against Liverpool on his debut. He scored a brilliant goal at Forest, but we've seen flashes few and far between, Nocky, but he's played left, he's played right, he's played 10. Statistically, the majority of his career, he's played as a centre midfielder, and he's never really played there for Wolves. So in terms of mobility, what do you want Tommy Doyle sitting next to Andre and offering Villa on, or do you want Bellegarde that can offer some legs and probably press and run around for 60 minutes? I think Bellegarde gets the nod on Saturday. But anyway, we'll come on to that. Rich, I hope you enjoyed that. Your take on his triple soul curl, foul, and almost double hamstring pull knocker.
Yeah, he was right in front of me. He kind of summed up the season, didn't it? He was trying, he was running, and he seemed to just go. And the Arsenal players didn't even try and take the ball off him. They just seemed mesmerised by his fall. So
it was like what I was watching. It was like he was chasing the ball with his head, and he was running it out of play.
He started falling on the halfway line, and by the time he landed, he was in the South Bank. So yeah, strange moment, but yeah, there we go.
Well, I think that concludes the players' ratings. This is episode 119 of the Wolves Report. Mark Knock and myself, Ryan Lester. We're giving you our Arsenal match and player analysis. Let's talk about loan, sell, bench, or start. We're going to go through the current squad, Knocky. We'll keep it quite quick so I can get some questions in as well. Let's bring up the squad. Some of these we won't do because they're pretty obvious. Jose Sarr for me, Knocky. He's the number one choice now. We've spent a goalkeeper that we spent £10 million on the goalkeeper that wasn't an upgrade. So for me, for now, I think Jose Sarr has settled as a keeper under the new manager. And this is the level I'm happy. It's not a priority for me. So for me, he's very much a starter.
Agreed.
Moving on to Sam Johnson, backup goalkeeper. The question is, do you sell him and cash in this window? Are you happy with Bentley as backup?
No, I'll keep him. I don't. If you sell him, what you're going to get for him? You're going to get your 10 million back, are you? So unless you could sell him and then bring in a striker with that money, which you're not going to get a great deal for that. So for me, I think you need two goalkeepers. I don't think Johnson's particularly good goalkeeper, but I think he's better than Bentley and King.
So he's a bench then, yeah?
Yeah.
No problem at all. And we know Bentley and King. Totti, someone that obviously has created some real debate on this podcast and our group chat and all kinds of things. But respect to Totti, and I love saying this, the manager started Totti's first 2 games, 2 wins, 2 clean sheets. No Totti, no clean sheets. So he certainly has an impact. Is he the most gifted footballer around? No. Is he really good at defending one-on-one against very good players and nullifying them? Absolutely is. So I think with Totti coming into the side as a potential left centre-back with Agbadu moving to the side, I think improves the 11. So for me, he's a starter when everyone's fit.
Oh, walks into the team. He plays left. You moved Agbadu over to the right.
Santiago Bueno, if he's probably the one that drops out if we sign Danso. Again, I don't think he's done too bad recently. I just don't think he's physically strong enough, Nocky.
No.
So for me, he's bench. He's not a keeper alone. He's bench.
Yeah, he becomes your 4th choice centre half.
We won't do Aston Villa here because I think we know he's not part of things at the moment. But on to Craig Dawson. I have a sneaky feeling that if Wolves sign another centre-back, I think Dawson might leave this window. And I wouldn't begrudge him that. But because if he's not being picked ahead of Santiago Bueno and Matt Doherty, I don't see any time he's going to be in the team unless we have a complete injury disaster across for everybody. I think if Wolves sign another centre-back, I think there's every opportunity Dawson leaves. So for me, if Wolves sign another centre-back, as a respect to Craig as well, I would say sell.
It's quite difficult, isn't it? Because Totti's had a few injury problems. If it's Danso, I don't think it will be, but if it's Danso, he's had a lot of injury problems. So you could end up in a position where you're having to draft Doc back in if it goes really wrong.
But he obviously sees Doc as ahead of him, and we both said Doc's played okay.
Yeah, but I don't see us carrying that many centre halves. So I think if we do get another one in, he may well go quite late in the day. But I'm not against him staying because he's experienced. You would assume he's a positive person in the dressing room to have around, and he's got plenty of experience. So I'm not against him staying. But yeah, I think you're probably right. If we get another one in, he may well go.
On to Ryan Ait-Nouri, I think a no-brainer at the moment in a wing-back. He's an absolute start. What I would say, I mean, I'm going to blend this into sort of the team for Villa. I wouldn't mind Rodrigo Gomez going to left wing-back. I thought he played really well in those couple of games that he played there. And I wouldn't mind Ryan Ait-Nouri playing on the right of the front 3 because he loves cutting inside and outside. I don't think we get the best out of him. I don't think he's having a great season. But in terms of what he does best is that sort of maverick play. What Cunha does is pick the ball and go at people and make things happen. And I think that can only happen when he's further up the pitch. For me, he's a keep for now, but I don't think he'll be here next summer. Nocky?
Yeah, completely agree. I want to see him playing up there as well. But you absolutely couldn't get rid of him because we've got rid of his backup, haven't we? In Bueno, so
especially
you got no choice.
Playing European football.
Nelson
Semedo, Nelson Semedo. I'd like Nelson to sign a new deal. Again, I know he's a player that very much splits opinion in the Wolves fan base. I think, look at the run on Saturday and the cross. That's what he's got in his locker. If we're getting more of that out of him, and I think defensively he's really improved. For me, he's very much a keep, and if he's wearing the captain's armband, I'm sure the manager feels the same way. So for me, he's a start and a keep, knocker.
Yeah, you know my feelings on Nelson. I'm a big fan. If there's any chance we can get a deal done with him, I hope we do. I don't expect us to, but it certainly stays this window. It'd be suicide to get rid of him now.
On to Matt Doherty. I think he's bench. I think Doc's a professional that loves Wolves. I'm not sure I think his days at wing back are over, but as a right centre back, it gives us aerial strength. He's done okay. I don't think he should be first choice in the Premier League at centre back there, but he's someone that certainly should be staying around. On to Andre, absolute no-brainer. I think him and Joe Gomez are the first names on the team sheet. So yeah, you're the same with that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Him and Joe Gomez. The tricky one here is Mario Lemina, because if Mario was in the right headspace, he's one of the first names on the team sheet against Villa, because he's that legs that Joe Gomez has got that we're going to miss, and we're going to have to find a solution for. It's a real shame how it's ending, and could Saturday be an olive branch for him to get him back into the fold, or is that ship sailed? Okay.
No, I think it's over. I mean, this happens at every club he's at, doesn't it? It always ends quite badly. I don't see any way bringing him back in for this game. He'd be a natural one to come in, wouldn't he? Because he's got quality. But no,
He's exactly what we need for that game.
Yeah, I'm a big Mario Lemina fan, as you know, and I'd love to have him back in, but it's very, very difficult to come back from what he's done and the comments he's made. So, no, I don't see him coming back in. I think he'll be gone.
A sell for Mario, then. That's a shame, but I'm inclined to agree. Joe Gomez, obviously, a little bit of a brain fart the weekend, but Wolves player of the season. First name on the team sheet for me. Again, one of those players that I think teams will be sniffing in the summer, especially if Wolves aren't in the division. But if Wolves are in the Premier League, I still think other teams will sniff him because of what he offers and how he improved and how consistent he is. A definite crowd splitter here, Nocky. Jean-Ric Bellegarde. You can start off on this one. I've been doing a lot of talking.
I think I'd like to see him on the bench with a replacement coming in. I think if we could get another midfielder and he's on the bench for me, I don't know where his best position is. And I think the fact that we've played him in so many positions and we still don't know where he should be playing probably tells his own story. There's moments of quality there. He's got good feet. He's quite strong and physical, but I don't see enough from him to want him starting at my team at the moment. I'm not convinced we'll get a midfielder in, so I expect him to have quite a big part to play in the rest of the season. But if we were able to get a replacement, he'd be on the bench for me. Yeah,
I don't think he's a starter, but I certainly think I would like to. I don't really think it's a gamble playing him centre midfield against Villa when he's played most of his career in centre midfield. Granted, it's not a Premier League level, but his natural position is centre midfield. So let's play him in centre midfield, particularly if we're worried about mobility.
But there's got to be a reason he's not playing in midfield, isn't there? I mean,
because Joe Gomez, Mario Lemina, and Andre.
Yeah, but he never gets a sniff, does he? And two managers now have seen him and thought he's not suitable in that position. So there's got to be something they're seeing. I think he's okay. I don't think he's quite good enough for what we need. He should never be starting games for us. He should be on the bench as a best case scenario. He'd be a player that if we were staying up, I think I would like to see us upgrade. But he's probably about the level of where we are at the moment. So I think he'll play a lot of football now.
So bench for Jean-Ric now. Well, certainly a squad. Interesting one for you, Nocky. You've made your thoughts feeding on Tommy Doyle for a while. I think there's a gifted footballer that gets the ball moving. I think he's a little bit like Andre, but doesn't win the ball back. Doesn't cover much ground, but a nice footballer. And I think the manager sees a player that isn't mobile enough for this system. So quite often you don't get smoke without fire. Sheffield United in for him because they must have thought they've had a chance. One to keep an eye on for the end of the window. But with this manager, I don't see Tommy Doyle being a part of things in the way Wolves are playing.
No, but again, you're going to need to replace him. I think if we go down, he's a big part to play next season. You could see him being captain of that team and trying to bring them back up. I think this level is a challenge for him because he hasn't got that pace. He's not physical. He's got a fantastic range of passing, and he can really spot a run and he can play that ball. And he's got a decent shot on him, but he struggles pace-wise in this division. So if we could upgrade him and we could bring in a couple of midfielders, I'll be looking to loan him out to give him a little bit of experience, potentially ahead of what will be a very big season for him at Wolves next year. But he's not a starter for me.
No. On to Luke, I agree. Luke Cundall. I'd be surprised if Luke Cundall's still a Wolves player come the end of this window.
I'm surprised he's a Wolves player now.
Yeah, that lad's 22. He's technically very neat and tidy. He's had some good loans in the Championship. I'm surprised he didn't go in the summer. So if he goes, good luck to him. 22, you probably want to be playing if you're a centre midfielder, regular footballer. I think he'll be gone.
We're not doing him any favours, really, are we, for his career? We've seen some moments of him and he looks a half-decent player, but he's never going to make it at this level. So go and let the kid go out, go and let him cut his teeth in the lower leagues and develop and give himself a home where he can play regular football and try and have a decent career, because this isn't doing him any favours sitting at Wolves.
No, I'll be surprised if he's there come the start of Feb. Rodrigo Gomez, for me, is very much a starter, Nocky. Yes. I would like to see him higher up the pitch, but equally I'll be happy because he played a bit of time in Portugal at left wing back. He played for us away at Leicester. I think he did all right. I like him. I think Wolves have a better energy when he's there because of his tenacity and his pressing and his desire, and he just wants to run and play. And I think Wolves, that energy he brings to the side gets the better out of other people. So for me, I think he's a starter at the moment and should be a starter. I don't know how you work the system, but he should be a starter for me ahead of Sarabia and ahead of Wang. And I'm guessing you probably agree with that as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think if you're looking at bringing Aït-Nouri into an attacking position as your natural replacement to play at left wing back, because he was excellent at Leicester. He played a similar position against Bristol City, albeit on the other side, and he was lethal on there. So
great goal.
He's got bags of energy, hasn't he? He's got that he's got that youthful, fearless nature about him where he's just willing to have a go, and he seems to really enjoy the game as well. For me, I think that's a player you absolutely need in your team because you can feed off that energy. He starts for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he should be starting. He should be starting against Villa, particularly in a high-tempo derby game that will be fast and you've got energy. You can't afford any passengers in games like that. And he doesn't strike me as someone that's ever going to hide. No matter how poor he is, he's not going to hide. He's going to keep going. Giancarlo Gedge, I thought he started off really well under the new boss. Even in his poor games, Nocky, he feels to me like somebody that could still make something happen. Even when he's quiet, he's put a nice cross in the outside of his foot. He's having a shot. He's hitting the post. I just think he's that kind of player. For me, it's either him or Rodrigo Gomez. So for me, you don't sell this window. Probably have a look at the summer, but we certainly need him for this running.
Yeah, I think this is definitely his last season with Wolves. I think regardless of where we are next year, he'll go. There's quality there. There's definitely some quality there.
He's a footballer. There's no question.
Yeah, there's some real talent. He seems to go very much in and out of games. He'll have a spell where he looks good, and then you don't see him for 15 minutes. And
he makes good decisions, Nocky. He plays the right pass. He makes the right ball. He shoots when he should. He crosses when he should. He just feels like someone that's like a smart footballer that I think he was unfortunate to be out of the team, to be honest, but it's particularly if Sarabi's in that position.
Yeah, I'd like to see him playing because I think he's one of the most intelligent footballers we've got at the club. So I think he works really well with Cunha as well. They seem to link up as a nice little duo. So for me, he'd be playing. But I do think he'll go.
Second goal at Leicester, it was a nice goal, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think he's a good player. I like him.
An interesting one now. We've seen like some reports from the Ajax side of things that Carlos Wolves may be going back. I think that'll be a move that suits Wolves. It'll free up a loan spot and it will suit them. I believe Ajax have got a shortage of wingers. He did get minutes. I think he played against Villa last year in European competition. Clearly fast, but not a player that either manager has fancied. So probably best for him, best for Ajax to get their player, and it frees up a loan place for Wolves. Nocky, probably about right.
Yeah, he's probably the right player at the wrong time, isn't he? There's definitely a little bit of quality about him. He bags a pace, but decision making is poor. He doesn't always go in the right direction when he's at full pelt. So yeah, he's obviously going to go back. He's had hardly any minutes, especially since Pereira comes in. So if we can remove him and then bring in another loan, maybe in the attacking area or in defence, that gives us a little bit more stability. It seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. Pablo Sarabia, I know Tyler absolutely loved him at the start, and I love it when he's got time to play on the ball and he's putting a ball in or a shot, because the guy's a pure footballer. But we've said it 100 times, he doesn't look like he has the physical attributes of the Premier League. The wider he drifts, the less effective he is. So again, I don't think we can get rid of him for this running unless we replace, and we're not going to be able to get rid of Forbes and Sarabia and replace them both, because there will be more injuries and there'll be times when Wolves are pressing for a win and you do need a Sarabia to unlock the door. But for me, I think this will be his last few months at the club, Nocky.
Yeah, he's got some ability about him, but Premier League doesn't suit him. Where we play him doesn't suit him, and he definitely doesn't suit a relegation battle. I don't think you can afford to get rid of him because we're not going to bring in enough players to kind of replace him. But that should have been his last start for a while now, I think, because he's not affecting the game in that position.
Yeah, both him and Wang, I would put that too. Interesting one. The one that's probably everyone's interested in the most is Matheus Cunha. The problem is now is if Wolves have said they'll take 75, 80 million or whatever, and they accept that bid, you're at the stage now when you don't have enough time to replace him. And the players you are trying to replace him with, the clubs know you've got a wage to spend and they'll drop another 10 or 15 million on, and you're in massive trouble. So if Matheus Cunha was to go, I think you have to get the replacements in first. A few days left of the window, no rumours of anything. Unless something big happens, you just don't know, do you? Because any team could come in, because if that happens, I think he goes, Nocky. But
yeah, you can't sell him at this stage of the season, surely, because you can't replace him. I would expect that when the window's closed, everything will calm down a little bit. He'll probably sign that new deal because he'll have a nice release clause in there. The fans will be back on side and we'll see some better performances from him. But if you sell him now, obviously you're not going to sell him today, so you're probably talking, tomorrow, maybe the 30th before you sell him, and then you've got, 4 days to bring in a replacement. It's just unrealistic to think you're going to do that.
I think the fan base, I mean, it was not going to accept that as well. But I think if you sell that kind of player, the one player that does give us that bit of magic that the other three teams don't have, granted they've got good players, but there's a one player there that isn't a bottom four footballer, or currently a bottom three footballer.
I'd be keeping him. I'd definitely be keeping him. There's not one bit of me that would sell him, because even if he's not 100%, he's probably better than everything else we've got in the attacking area. So for me, he stays.
No doubt, a natural talent. Jorgen Strand Larsen, I think he had a good start. I think he's been tired the last month, Nocky. I think he's been flogged and he's picked up an injury. Maybe a rest out of the team will do him good. The problem is, though, he's the only person that can do that job. So he's a big loss. He's one of the first names on the team sheet. I don't think we've played to his strengths, because he's clearly a box finisher. Get him on the penalty spot or in and around the 6 yard. He can slide a goal in, he can head a goal in, he can finish. But if you don't feed him, he's not going to score. So I don't think Wolves have used him well. I do like him. However, I do agree with what you and Tyler have said. I think for someone that big and strong, we need a little bit more aggression.
Yeah, and I think you're maybe right as well. He's still young and he's developing and he's learning the game, and you don't just naturally change your attributes. You can't suddenly become physical if you haven't been physical for your career. There's his numbers and what I've seen of him is enough to tell me he's a good footballer, and we should definitely be keeping him. But I think we need another player to support him, because you can't keep flogging players to death. So I'd love to see another natural number 9 come in just to take that pressure off him a little bit. But if he's fit, he starts.
Absolutely. And last but not least, Hwang Hee-chan.
Sell him.
Didn't even finish.
Job done.
We all are pretty much resigned to the fact that Hwang is going to start against Villa on Saturday afternoon. And I want to be doing this podcast next week, pleading for forgiveness because he scrambled home a disgusting goal against Villa and we've got something from the game. However, I'm concerned that I don't know if he's got that in his locker at the moment. But if he does play, you'll need our support, because people who aren't confident need the support of their colleagues and the fan base. So he's going to need our support on Saturday. I don't want to be proven right. I want to be proven wrong. But I do look back and think, what reason and who was deciding not to sell Hwang Hee-chan for 21 million euros? Granted, he had a really good purple spell the Christmas before last. Away at Brentford, the little clip over and volley, the finishing, the track in the back pass. He was fantastic. He went to the Asia Cup. I've not seen that player for a year. Scored a couple of goals. Nice goal against Man United. Really good goal at Spurs. But that's what he's done in a year, and that's nowhere near enough. And for me, if Wolves, again, I would sell, but the problem is, Nocky, you can't sell this window unless you're not replacing. There's no point selling 20 million now, because there'll be a point when you need him. Granted, it feels like you're playing with 9 or 10 men with him and Sarabia, but you're in a situation where you need him, and it's a self-inflicted mess from where the squad is.
Yeah, I mean, we had an opportunity to sell him. We didn't take it. The deals that we should have done, I mean, you're never going to do deals on the 1st of January, are you? You've got to be realistic. But by the sort of 10th and 11th of January, we should have had a similar window that we had under Lopetegui, where we brought in Mario and we brought in Dawson and a couple of others, and it gave us a bit of a foothold, and we were able to get ourselves back into the season. We've not done that now. When we're kind of in a position where if the Danzo deal doesn't happen, you're almost tempted to think that's probably it. We're probably going to go with what we've got for the rest of the season. So it's really poor from our perspective. I'd love to think we could sell Hwang for 20 million quid, but if we sell him now, they'll just sit on that money, because I don't see where the replacement comes from. He's a player who is frustrating. He's illogical at times in what he does, but every so often he pops up with something special, like he did against Spurs, which is why I think he stays, but he's on the bench and he's going to start games because of the situation that we're in. I mean, Larsen, he could be out 6 weeks, couldn't he? If it's a hamstring, it could be longer. So he's going to probably start the majority of those games you'd expect. But in the long run, on the bench till the end of the season, then you look to get rid of whatever division we're in.
Yeah, I don't think he's up to it. He had a purple patch and he got the fans on side, but a dip in form isn't a quiet year. That 12 months out from looking poor almost every single game, to bad touches, to not be fully into tackles, there's something really wrong. I don't know. But again, come Saturday afternoon, I hope I'm eating my words and I'm apologising, and one's bounced off his bum or something. I don't really care as long as he scores. That concludes the sell, loan, keep or start segment of there. I hope you've enjoyed that. I've got a few questions now. We are on episode 119 of the Wolves Report with Mark Knock and myself, Ryan Lester. We've been through the Arsenal game. We've gone through loan, bench, sell or start. Now we're going to take a few of your questions. We are an hour in and Knocky will turn into a pumpkin not far after 10 o'clock. So we better answer a few questions quickly. Knocky, this one is for you. Get yourself away from the speakers now. Richard asks, I can't make an evidence-based case for staying up. Can you?
Not really. I mean, we're third from bottom, aren't we? So the amount of games we've had tells you that we're one of the 3 worst teams in the league. The only hope I've got is I think Cunha and Gomez. I think we've got better players than the teams around us, but I would caveat that by saying that I think Ipswich have done some really smart business. Leicester have bought in a couple of players, and the teams around us are having a bit of a go, and we're not. And I think maybe where you've got an Ipswich who are running on a little bit of adrenaline and they want to be a part of this, they want to enjoy the season in the Premier League, and they've got a togetherness. We feel like we're unravelling slightly. So I can't really make a case for us staying up. I think it's pure hope that those 3 teams are going to be worse than us.
Yeah, Richard, thank you for being part of the show. I'm the annoying optimist out of me, Knocky and Tyler. I do think Wolves will stay up, not because they're any good, just because the other 3 will be worse. That really isn't a basis to base much on, but it feels like the plan of the chairman and the director of football, who told us we didn't need centre-backs, but we're trying to buy 2 centre-backs this window.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought it? Richard, thank you for being part of the show. I'll answer this one, Knocky. Mark asks, would you rather stay up and battle relegation? Would you rather stay up and battle relegation for another year or go down and win the championship at the 1st to 10th? I can't take relegation under anything. However, Mark, and this will definitely split opinions, if you said to me Wolves could win the FA Cup, but it means you're going down, I'm probably going to take the FA Cup. And I hate myself for saying that, but I've never seen Wolves win anything. I've seen us get promoted and win the championship, but I've not actually seen them lift a trophy, and neither has Knocky. Our dads have been at Wembley and seen them win stuff. We haven't, and it's for that moment we go, isn't it? Granted, I want to be in the Premier League, but if you offer me an FA Cup, I'd take your arm off. So to answer your question, Mark, no, I want Wolves to stay up and I want them to build. I don't want that, but I get your question to get some winning games. I understand that. Mark, thank you for being part of the show. I think we've covered this briefly, but we'll go through it with Knocky anyway. Andrew asked, do you think Pereira was naive in not subbing Gomez at half-time? And we all criticise O'Neill's selection as subs, but aren't his as bad, e.g. Hwang and Geds?
No, as I said before, I don't think he could have subbed him purely because we didn't have the quality to bring on. And if we had have made that substitution and we still get beat, then that sits solely with Pereira there, doesn't it? Whereas this sits with Gomez. It's really hard. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of similarities with O'Neill, although my main concern is that as bad as we were under O'Neill, we looked a goal threat. We don't look much of a goal threat under Pereira.
We have played just 4 of the top 6, though. Right?
We have, yeah. I mean, I think you need to probably have a balanced opinion after we get through the next sort of 5 or 6 fixtures. But the reality is, whichever way you look at it, we need points. So I don't think he was naive in not subbing Gomez. I think he did the right thing leaving him on because he's arguably your best player behind Cunha. So to take him off and then get beat he'd have been slaughtered for that. But it sits with Gomez for his unprofessional moment that cost us the game.
Fair enough. Andrew, thank you for being part of this show. Me, myself and Clive, thoughts on going to 5-3-2? We seem to get everyone in midfield. I think we covered that early on, Knocky. I think that's a system that I would like to see us now deploy against a Man City, a Liverpool. When we play some of the other big teams, I think to go to that system, it doesn't have to be tweaked too much. You just use your width, and then you have to use your wing backs to become your width, and you don't have any forwards going wide. So I think we covered that early on, Knocky. It's something we go to against teams who are significantly better. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'll probably be going against Villa 5-3-2 as well.
Interesting. Me, myself and Clive, whichever one who asked that question, thanks for being part of the show. Mike, is there seriously not one decent defender at a top European side that isn't available for 4 months? There will be plenty of playing time and plenty of defending. Am I missing something? No, it's a great question. Villa have had an injury to a centre-back in Tyrone Mings. They've gone to Chelsea. It looks like they're going to secure a loan deal for one of Chelsea's 2.5 million players in their squad. So they'd have plenty to choose from. It does appear that Wolves were interested in him as well. But as we know, Wolves do tend to do things slowly, penny pinching, Nocky. It just seems that, granted, it's been a tough run of fixtures in January, but that doesn't mean there aren't points on offer, even if they're hard games. And Saturday against Arsenal was an example of that.
It's frustrating though, isn't it? I mean, Villa have had an injury to a centre half. They've gone straight out and dealt with it. We've needed this centre half, well, for a few years now, but we've needed this centre half at least since September when we lost Mosquera, and the fact that we still haven't got that sorted. I know we bought one in, but we all know we needed more than that. It's really poor, and it's penny pinching, isn't it? So
it feels that way. Granted, I would rather sign the right players late in the window than panic, but we're a Premier League side, and most Premier League sides are appealing to a lot of players across world football. I mean, this is a golden ticket to a lot of people, and it's attractive. So it's very, very frustrating. Mike, thank you for your contribution to the show. Greg with an absolute belter. My question is, WTF is going on? Greg, I don't know, mate. I do not know. I do think people are very much looking at the league table now. I understand the league table doesn't really like this stage of the season. As I keep saying to Nocky, we have just played 4 of the top 6 sides. And I think Saturday hurt more because there's an opportunity that we missed. That's my take. I still think we'll be okay. I know you spoke the other night, Greg, and you think we're going down. I hope you're wrong, and I know you hope you're wrong as well. Let's see what Saturday brings. Derby can be funny days. It could be really painful. It could be kickstart our season. But your take on WTF, Nocky?
It's a culmination of years of mismanagement since we went to the self-sufficient model, isn't it? We've been getting incrementally worse season on season, and it feels like it's coming to a head this year. So I don't think we should be surprised. I think at the start of the season, most people thought we were going to be in a bit of a pickle, especially with the run of fixtures we've had. We just haven't reacted to it. So it's neglect. It's a lack of ambition from the owners. It's an incapable man in Matt Hobbs, and it's just a poor decision after poor decision, which has cost us. And sticking with the manager who was on the run of form he was on for much longer than we should have done. Lots and lots of mistakes, which have equated to win the brown stuff.
Yeah, massively. Wolves are in a relegation battle. There's no doubt about it. I still do think that Wolves will squeak by. I may be wrong, but I really hope my optimism is paid for by Wolves finishing 17th or more at the end of the season. So. Greg, thank you for being part of the show. On Saturday, tea time, Wolverhampton Wanderers face Aston Villa at Molineux. It's the 5:30 game, and Nocky's looking forward to it. Not really. Nocky, this is a tough game. Villa play Celtic in the Champions League on Wednesday night. Villa need to win to try and get an automatic spot. Celtic can win to get an automatic spot. It's certainly not a dead rubber, and you can't imagine an England v Scotland game is ever going to be a dead rubber. So we can only hope that he's tired, but it is a Scottish team. No disrespect to Scottish football. It isn't the best. You'd expect Villa to win that one comfortably. However, they've not been particularly good after European games. I don't think they've won one all season. However, they are playing Wolves, so we are there to break the records. Nocky, you mentioned going about to a 5-3-2. There's a few selection dilemmas. Obviously, Joe Gomez is suspended. Strand Larsen, it looks like he's injured. I don't think you come off with a hamstring and then you recover in a week. And then there is the dilemma we've seen that Forbes like to go back to. He's not going to be involved, not that he would have been anyway. And then you're looking at Sarabia, who was poor, Hwang, that was poor. Rodrigo Gomez has to come in for me, Nocky. There has to be a position in the team for him somewhere. Yeah,
I mean, I'm tempted to go 5-3-2 play. I'd like to see Cunha and Guedes playing together in a 2, bring an extra one into midfield, because I think with Rodgers and McGinn, the power they've got in midfield.
Busy and strong, aren't they, in that area?
Yeah, I don't think we can compete with Andre and Bellegarde or Doyle. So I'd be tempted to bring 3 into that area. I'll probably go, it sounds horrible, but I'll probably go Bellegarde, Doyle and Andre and just try and keep that area of the pitch tight. Yeah. Rodrigo comes in for me as left wing back. I'd probably take Aït-Nouri out of the team and then look to bring him on in an attacking area later on in the game. That's probably where I'll go and just go for a 5-3-2, try and make it horrible and then look to break. I think there's a chance in this one because I don't think Villa are the team they were last season. It's catching up with them now and they've got a very big European game, but they're still better than us. So I'd like us to try and be solid, disciplined, organised, and then look to break a little bit later on in the game and hopefully steal something.
One thing I did notice when watching Villa v West Ham was Villa started well from first 10 to 15 minutes, and the game settled and West Ham grew. But West Ham were the better side in the second half, and they were unfortunate not to go. I'm not saying Villa were gone, Nocky, but they just didn't have anything. They put the pedal down on the floor and there was nothing there. And West Ham looked the fitter and stronger side. And you can only hope then that if I'm doing my basic scouting, just watching a game of football, that Wolves know that an energetic team rather than a one-pace team will be one that's going to hurt Villa more.
Got some good players though, West Ham. I think they're a good side, and you take two of our kind of best players out of the team, and we're going to struggle a little bit, aren't we? So I don't think we've got the quality West Ham have got. That's why I just want us to be a little bit more organised and just try and stink out the game, if I'm being honest, and hopefully we can take something. I'm worried that if we were to go with 2, we'll get overrun. I think if we go after them, they'll break, because that's one of their strengths, is to break with pace, with the power and they've got up front. So I just think it's about being solid and organised and trying to. I mean, we've got a week's break, haven't we? Try and maybe just take that sting out of them and push ourselves into the game later on. It's horrible and it's out. I feel dirty saying it, to be honest, but I just think we're almost at a let's get back to basics and make ourselves a little bit more solid this season and try and give ourselves a bit more of a foothold in games. Because when you're conceding soft goals and you're just not giving yourself a chance, are you? And these are a decent outfit. They've got some quality players there.
One thing I would say though, Nocky, against Arsenal, I do think Wolves were pretty well organised. I think the shape was good. I think they protected the defence well, and I do want to try and punish Villa, because if they're playing midweek Saturday, it is going to catch up regardless. So
yeah, I agree.
I think if Wolves are in that game with 30 left, I think the game will be there for the taking. Granted, it might not be us, but I do think there'll be an opportunity.
I'd fancy us if we had Cunha and we had Cunha, Strand Larsen, and probably a one other, whether it's Aït-Nouri or Rodrigo or Hwang, whoever that may be. I'd kind of fancy us if we had Gomez sat in midfield as well. I think Gomez is more of an impact for us than Strand Larsen because of what he offers in that midfield area. So we just need to be a little bit cautious how we approach it.
Interesting to see what he does. Manager's got to earn his money and find some solutions there. But again, it's exposing the lack of depth and quality in the squad. Wolves have got an okay 11, but it still don't have enough centre-backs. Anyone else gets injured, it really gets shown up. This is episode 119 of the Wolves Report. There's currently 2,015 live viewers. Thank you as always for being part of the show. Your questions, your likes, your insults, your comments, you're all part of the show. If you could drop us a follow on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or on Spotify when I upload that later on, that will be very much appreciated. Prediction time, Nocky. Have you got a sneaky?
No. I mean, I've got to be honest, I think we're going to get beat, but I can't say that against Villa. So I'm going to go for a 1-1. Matheus Cunha with the opener.
Tyler's texted me the score. He's gone with Wolves 4, Villa 0, and he's gone Matheus Cunha to get all 4. So thank you for
absolutely not done that.
Contribution, Tyler. I'm going to go for 1-0 Cunha because it's what I do, and one day I will be right. Nocky, thank you so much for giving up your evening to talk about another Wolverhampton Wanderers loss. Hopefully we can talk about some positive results soon. This has been episode 119 of the Wolves Report. Of the Wolves.